Hello everybody and welcome to HeMakesMePlay. Normally, this is the channel where I make people play video games because I can't see the games, I'm blind. But in this case, me and Vincent thought we'd try something different. Because yeah, Vincent is here with me. Hey Vincent.
Hi Marius.
Yeah, because we actually finished playing a game. I finished making you play A Mortician's Tale.
Yeah.
A short, a game about death and being a funeral director by Laundry Bear Games. Normally we would just, after finishing the game, we would just kind of sit in my kitchen and talk about what happened. But we thought we'd record it, and maybe it's fun.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, how did you like this game, Vincent?
I liked it. It's an interesting insight into the work of a funeral director.
Yeah, that's the main takeaway, right?
Yeah.
It's I think we both had positive first impressions.
Yeah.
I definitely went away feeling slightly enriched, but it's also it wasn't the most exciting experience. It depends on what you're looking for in a game, I guess.
Yeah. Honestly, I have to say I was surprised by how long it was.
Yeah, we noticed this. Like, you looked it up on there's a website that does this, I guess. I'm an old man, so I don't know this. Like, how long to beat?
How long to beat, exactly.
Yeah, and it said like an hour, right?
Yeah, and it took us almost 3, I think.
Yeah, this is somewhat normal for a weird setup because you always read stuff to me and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in this game, like, I don't know. It was probably just reading all the emails.
Probably.
The game gives you, you're in an office and you get emails every day. That's almost, I don't know, half the content of the game, I feel like.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty writing-heavy game. And we read everything, of course, including the not at all monthly funeral letter.
Yeah.
Which is very content-heavy. And probably if you're just playing this at home alone, then maybe you'll just skim the text, or people read faster when they don't read out loud.
Yeah.
So that explains it, I guess. It's still like the actual sort of dramatic curve of the game is still very there's just really just one big event, I'd say, right? Your funeral home eventually gets acquired. Spoilers, gets acquired by by a big corporation. Which we all know from 6 Feet Under.
I don't.
You don't, because you should watch that show. It's pretty good.
I might.
But
after this.
Yeah, and then the nice funeral director that you used to work for, she sells the home, and then it all turns to shit, kind of.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess we can talk about this. Is this a point the game wants to make? Like it's a scathing critique of capitalism?
I feel so. I mean, I think this is something that I noticed in a lot of like these shorter indie games. I don't know how many you've played of these, but
I don't know.
I've played quite a lot of them by now, and I feel like a lot of them are very, I would say, heavy-handed in their message, but it's mostly because they just don't have the time to make it more subtle or anything. And I felt like that was a problem here as well. That it's like very brash about this form of capitalism we feel is bad, and there was not much room in that statement.
Yeah, I mean, okay, some comments I have on that. One is I don't know if I want to let anyone get away with like we didn't have the time, because like really, like what kind of schedule was this game on? This seems like a project of love, which is great. Right, it's just, I don't know the frame that this was made in. It's just, I don't. It doesn't change what is in front of me, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and so I still see like there's a kind of a lack of nuance, lack of subtlety. But before we get into that, let's like kind of look at what is actually there in the critique of capitalism. I guess that's a bombastic statement anyway. It's just that a big corporation acquires your funeral home, and then things change. And I actually think the way things change, it gets the message across. Like it is competent in showing the problems, like that such an like intimate and deeply human endeavor such as dying and taking care of the deceased becomes a free market competition. Right, and like you can't offer people like home funerals anymore. You have to push everyone into maybe not doing the thing that is most healing and completing to their grieving process, but you got to sell the big coffins and stuff.
Right.
And you're being pushed by your boss to do this.
Yeah.
And I think they get it across very competently. Right? It's like the emails you get from the boss, they're clearly written in a different voice from the nice old lady that used to run the funeral home. And yeah, the funerals change, and you got some experiences like where you're just now basically working the crematorium as a factory and stuff. So it gets this across quite nicely, I think. But then, yeah, I just thought there's like, you could take this further and, have some more nuance, because it is very on the nose, right? The Chad guy, your new boss, he is kind of like a caricature of, a money grabbing capitalist.
Yeah,
he's a bit extreme at times.
Yeah,
but that's really all. It's not a big put down of the game.
Yeah, I remember at one point I was in the game. I even mentioned that I was wondering if like the second part of the game where we have the first part is reading the emails, which was a big part, and then the actual work where we had this game where we had to take the jewelry off to be cremated bodies and all that. And I was wondering if due to the change of leadership, that game would change, like if there would be some sort of pressure suddenly.
No, but that's a theme in this game. I find this interesting actually, because there's generally, if the question is there going to be pressure here? The answer is no.
Yeah,
this game does not pressure you, which is really, really fitting, I think, for the theme. A funeral seems like a letting go kind of scenario. Not a lot of pressure there. At least there shouldn't be, I guess.
Yeah.
Although that jewelry thing, when you cremate people and you take the jewelry away, that did sort of change. They played with that, because when the funeral home gets acquired, then the guy makes a big deal with the city to cremate people basically without relatives, maybe homeless people and stuff, and then suddenly they don't have any jewelry anymore. It's just a tiny detail, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I am wondering, because it was such a tiny detail, I'm wondering if it's actually like a detail, if the developer thought about it that way, or if it's, or if their main focus was that the corpse is a different one.
How do you mean?
I didn't actually feel like the game changed that much.
Oh, when the funeral, yeah, at least not the mechanics of the game, right?
And I see a version of this game, or I could see a version of this game where that actually did, but yeah, I'm not sure if that would have been a better or worse game.
I can see many versions of this game. This clearly isn't the worst one, because, well, let's talk a little bit about what are the actual mechanics of this game. What I would call the mechanics is like the cleaning of corpses, putting in like stuff into their eyeballs, and doing all the really gnarly stuff that a funeral director does.
Yeah.
But you do it all to this somber music and in this kind of low pressure environment of quiet and dignity. I think the game manages to maintain dignity throughout, which is interesting. And then that's a mechanic basically. And sometimes this is cleaning the corpse and getting out the blood and all that stuff. Sometimes it's cremating people, right? And those are basically the mechanics. After that, you're actually at the funeral and you get to talk to people, and that's it. That's all the interaction basically.
Right.
And it's over and over again. And okay, so the quick response here is, of course, to shout, "Where's the game?" Listen, where's the game? Did you miss a game here?
Not really. Again, because this is not unusual for these sort of smaller scale indie games.
I have a feeling you've played more than I have. Would you care to elaborate? Can you compare it to like some other titles that come up for you?
I wonder if I find something that I can think of something that is has the same issue. I see it more as basically a visual novel in a way. Visual novel with gameplay elements.
Yeah.
And yeah, even there's usually not really a fail state at any point in the visual novel. You just click through it, and this has more gameplay elements, sure, but you can't really mess them up.
This has no fail state. You cannot fail this game.
Right. There's no timer at any point or anything like that. And yeah, I think that again is a common occurrence in these smaller indie games.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I thought it was completely appropriate here. I mean, if the game would go on, it would grow thin, right? But it's a pretty short experience.
Right.
Well, I haven't played that many other indie titles, I guess. But here, especially with the theme of death and stuff, it seemed really, really appropriate and fitting. I think that if you do it this way, if they have these really low pressure mechanics for preparing the dead and stuff, that there's a great deal of subtlety and nuance that you have to display as a developer, because this obviously, right, the version of this that I would make my kind of director is like super high pressure environment, and maybe multiple corpses coming in at the same time, and you can of course fuck up in horrible ways. Like I would those like not truck drive, but like surgeon simulator games, or like the Band 40 games like Co-op and stuff, where you have like maybe the entire keyboard is like set up to control the formaldehyde pump and all the other stuff, and it's like a really difficult thing, and you can make hilarious fuck ups for the no don't do that. I guess that would not have any dignity whatsoever. It kind of would support my weird grotesque humor, but yeah, that's not the kind of game this is, and I think it's very appropriate to have that restraint.
I have to say, I remember one time, the first time we cremated a body, I did notice that there were not.
There's
really,
like a physics engine.
Yeah, there was a physics engine, and I could.
You can wobble the bone chunks.
Yeah,
in
that
hilarious
was very
ways.
Inappropriate.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
But it doesn't really take away from the overall feel of the game.
No.
It is very subtle, very restrained, and that kind of stuff is interesting. I don't know if I would find that interesting in other games, but like you do learn a lot about the process of preparing a body. I did watch 6 Feet Under. I watched them prepare bodies a whole lot of times. Still, I didn't know how it actually works, but like this is the power of games and interacting, and you don't just watch a movie, you don't just read about it. It kind of burns itself more into your brain, I feel like, even if there are no stakes and you can't fail, but still having to click on the needle and stuff and put in the organs, and then click to draw out the moisture and stuff, and put those awful things in the eyeballs and stuff, and have the sounds come out. That's a very haptic experience. I'll probably never forget that now.
Yeah, and we do it multiple times, so it just keeps getting grinded into our brains.
Yeah, and like the game is really good at this, I think. This is what the game does. It really evokes the experience of being a funeral director. Obviously, I don't know what that actually is like, but this is probably the closest version I can get to of that.
Also, I would like to add, I feel like it does a really good job about teaching about funerals as well. That's
the other part,
like the Funeral Monthly, for example, bringing us every month, or at least every email we get, bringing us information about how to act and how different cultures see death, and what's inappropriate and appropriate at funerals. And I feel like I will remember a lot of that at the next funeral I will go to.
Yeah.
So yeah. another good part of the game.
Yes, there's definitely. I also wanted to talk about that. Like, there are other parts to being a funeral director except just the preparing of the bodies, the mechanics, and the game does a good job of bringing that across. And there's the emails you get, the funeral monthly. There's also the actual funeral and talking to the people and stuff. I found that there was a lot of restraint there as well, because there was no drama at these funerals. That's also what I would expect. People getting into fights, maybe people having breakdowns, and then you have to manage their stress level, whatever. You could gamify the shit out of all of this, and they don't. But you just hear normal conversations like, these things always make me so hungry, and then someone is, I wish I could have kept him from smoking or whatever. Someone is grieving, like regretting something, and then there's a kid playing video games. You just get an overview of what happens at funerals. The whole game normalizes this whole process of death and just shows you what it's kind of like.
Yeah.
And it's good at that. I like that. The funeral monthly, though, I think it was hit or miss.
Sure.
The first thing is, like, we noticed that it's actually not monthly, because the game progresses in time. It makes time jumps occasionally, and you do get them twice a month. I know it's nitpicky, but it's kind of, once you notice it, I couldn't unsee it anymore. Once Vince pointed it out to me. And the actual newsletters you get, they're sort of long. I drifted off a couple of times listening to you, and they're very didactic.
I have to say, what I mostly remember is like the top 5 lists of what not to do, for example.
That's why I say it's hit or miss. Sometimes it was hit. That was a real hit for me. That was super interesting. It was top 5 things not to say at a funeral. That was very interesting. It was also shorter than the other ones. But I think, like, I don't know, these long diatribes about what cultures of funerals and funerals at home, it ties into what happens in the game always. That's cool. But I think it kind of sticks out because otherwise the game is so good at doing exposition of what it's like to be a funeral director, right? It doesn't just throw a ball of text at you, it just makes you do the stuff.
I have to say, though, does it tie into the game that much? Like,
usually it does.
We had...
it started out with stuff like different cultures of funerals, and then you get a family who wants to bring their own food.
Right.
That's kind of a tie-in, maybe.
But I remember there was a newsletter about LGBT.
Yes, and like gender identification.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that was never really.
That's true. Yeah,
never really mattered. And then the next one was about again different cultures. The one I remember
where people dance with dead people.
For the part about the people dancing with their death.
But that was a cool detail. I don't mind.
Madagascar. And I don't remember that being tied into the game.
I think that also was talking about people having funerals at home, and that became a big thing later in the game.
Right.
Yeah, and there were other newsletters about ecology and stuff, and that first, like, having ecologically aware or ecologically conscious funerals, and that first didn't matter, and then, spoilers, the game ends with you, Charlie, quitting your job and then starting an eco-friendly funeral home. So that's also a tie-in, I would say. Yeah. But I agree, it doesn't always completely tie in, but I think that's the optimal case. That kind of just intuitively feels nicest to me. You have like 80% of them tie in, but some of them just don't, so it still seems realistic. Yeah. Makes sense to me. But yeah, that part of the game, it feels a bit clunky in comparison to the smooth exposition it did otherwise. And other than that, I think it also, like a funeral home is also, I guess it's kind of like a family. There are other people involved. Yeah. And I think the game did a good job transporting that, because you do develop a relationship to these characters just by their emails.
Which is weird, because you don't, as a player, you don't even get the option to respond, even though your character in-game apparently does.
Your character indirectly responds, but you learn about your responses retroactively.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. The characters were great. Matthew, the other funeral director, who for some reason always talked about either food or drink.
Yeah, they're a bit quirky sometimes, but not in an overt, like, ham-fisted way.
Yeah, no, I loved it.
Yeah, I love the lady who owns the funeral parlor. It's like she's getting older. It becomes like you really understand why she's selling the place and stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you hate her as a capitalist. Just a Chad guy. Yeah, and like you always, this is also interesting, but I think it worked well in the end. Like you have this friend in London, I guess. She's like a funeral, no, not a funeral director at all. She's like in a death museum, a museum curator, and Jen. And we thought she was your girlfriend at first, but she's not. She's just your best friend. But she always gives you like these weird death hipster kind of emails.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. That's another take on death. So yeah, it just gives you an overall tour of death and funerals, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. She was just very passionate about death. And
yeah, I kind of I disliked her at first because she just wrote these really complaining emails to us. But this really changed later, and then I loved her.
Yeah, me too.
She tries to get you to go to a death cafe. That's cool.
Gotta go out more.
Yeah, Charlie is a bit of a recluse, I think.
Yeah.
That's the one thing, like, the main character does not get characterized very much. It's very much a blank slate, kind of.
Yeah.
Except for the end, where she just decides to start an eco funeral home.
Yeah, and we do read, like, 1 or 2 responses she writes. But I again, could imagine a version of the game where even if we don't get to write them, we get to click on the send reply option or something like we do for the jobs, right, where we can have an auto response. And I think I would have liked that, to have a bit more information about the character and how she changes.
Yeah, I don't know how they might have done that, but yeah, it feels like that it would just inflate the game, right? Then this makes sense in a longer game, I feel like.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I agree. You could have more of that. How did you feel about the aesthetics of the game? Like, you're the one who saw it. I mean, I heard it a bit. It had cool squishy sound effects. They put some effort into that, clearly. And the music, it was basically everything that we're hearing right now all the time. Yeah. Except at the end, where it picks up and has like a more uplifting kind of tone, which is great. The game ends on a really elated note, I felt like. But yeah, how did you like the assets, the aesthetics?
I'm still absolutely in love with this title screen. But apart from that, the actual game I felt was pretty basic, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
But it worked fine for what it needed to be. And
yeah,
the color scheme, gray and purple, worked perfectly.
Yeah, with golden coffins, apparently.
Right. Even actually, most or even all objects we could interact with were golden. Like the urn we could use after cremation, or I think even the button at the furnace for the cremation was golden.
Was that like a code for you? Like if it's golden, you can click it?
Yeah, but not always. Like the bodies, for example, or the PC where we read our emails, I don't think they were golden.
Oh, okay, I see. That would be kind of strange if you have a golden body there.
Yeah, but we did have a golden coffin, so...
Yeah, but it theoretically could be golden.
Sure.
Who knows? Or painted gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like I mean, obviously I'm not a great judge because I didn't see it, but I heard it and I hear your descriptions of it, and the aesthetic feels very muted overall. I think that's the predicate I would employ. Also because, like, I don't know, just the way you talk to these people at the funeral, it just seems very much, they don't have actual voice lines.
Yeah.
And the dialogue there's nothing like abrasive or in your face about any of it. It's like almost like you perceive everything through a muffled cloth.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I feel about this game, which seems appropriate for the theme.
I still wonder if the actual room for the funerals changed after the corporation took over.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to go back and check.
I might do that. Also, something I just remembered is after every time skip, we would start with Charlie in
the office, right?
The office or her workspace, and she was always like already working on something, like cleaning an urn or something.
Oh, okay.
That was always how the scene started, and I found that very cute.
That's a neat detail. I didn't know that. Yeah, that is a kind of characterization. She's very studious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, you said there's like other indie titles like this. I wonder if this is a kind of its own genre. What I mean is, like, I like this idea of oh, let's make these little interactive experiences that just really show you what some kind of work is like. I find that really fascinating, especially for, kind of work and work environments that you don't necessarily get to see, or that people are very unfamiliar with. Obviously death is like, that's a big thing because it's taboo. But I don't know, maybe other stuff like this would be very interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how close our ideas of jobs actually are. Because as you said, you watched 6 Feet Under, and so you were familiar with funeral homes and all that, but still...
Yeah, with some aspects, but not so intimately.
Yeah, and you still learned a lot here. So I wonder if other jobs...
just make these games to clean up some myths.
Yeah, basically.
Like, what would be a cool job you'd like to see in this kind of game? For some reason, I keep thinking of airplane traffic controllers.
Oh, that would be good, yeah.
Maybe. If you learn stuff that's new, right? It needs to be a job where people have some kind of false belief about it.
Yeah.
Maybe plumbers? I don't know.
For some reason, I thought about, like, the religious jobs.
Like what? Priest?
Yeah, like priests. Like, there are some aspects of it that are very public, but I wonder how are all the other
I have no idea what priests actually do when no one's looking.
Yeah, and I could imagine this would fit in the same, like, sort of somber
yeah, that's
attitude.
true. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I would like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of more, but I can't. But hopefully people make more stuff like this. Other than that, I think the game achieved maybe its goal of, I don't know, making us think about death. Me at least. And we had some conversations about, like, oh, how Vincent talked about how his funeral experiences were and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time in ages that I thought about the actual funerals. Not so much about the people that died, but the funerals are not usually something I remember, apparently. But I did here.
Yeah. And it's it made me sad sometimes, this game. Just by these little comments by these people. I think you could have a more thorough exploration of death, but obviously you also need a different game, and I don't think it's like that wasn't the goal of this game.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm thinking of 6 Feet Under again. Like, they do that. They go at it from every angle, basically.
Oh, I think I just have to watch it now.
Yeah, you should. It's a good show. And yeah, it's very pertinent to this game. Keeps coming up. But also, again, there is a bad version of this. Like, again, subtlety and nuance. Like, the game really handles difficult stuff really well, right? It makes you kind of not confront, but go into some kind of negotiation with death and dying and stuff. But there's stuff like, you get a suicide eventually that comes up, but you do have the choice of maybe not handling that kind of body. You can let someone else do that if that's a difficult topic for you. It brings up, the capitalist guy has a contract with hospitals to basically take infants and do their funerals, but it never comes up. You don't actually have to clean a baby. Yeah,
but also we never had a case of a body actually being disfigured in any way.
Yes, that's a muted that I meant, right? It doesn't get in your face. Even there was a woman with a bike accident. We were wondering for a while, oh, is she going to be a gnarly corpse?
Yeah.
But no, that's not this game. It's always very tasteful, very dignified, and it does that well and consistently.
I have to say, I do wonder if that. I feel like maybe that should be an addition to the game, though. I feel like that's
a gnarly corpse.
Yeah, I think that's an important part of the job, that even after being in some way disfigured or damaged, the corpse is still treated has to still be treated with respect, and it might be a terrible piece of work to fix or try to fix what's fixable.
Yeah.
But somebody has to do it.
I agree. I mean, I think it's part of the human experience, right? That like just extreme disfigurations of the human body that happens in life and in death. and yeah, you know, that's exactly it. Comes up several times, 6 feet under. But I think that's not this kind of game. The game, whenever there's a choice, oh, could we evoke an intense emotion in the player? They kind of take the route of no, that's not, and that might, you know, that might shock you to see that, and so the game doesn't do it. It's not the kind of feeling tone it's going for.
Yeah.
So I respect that choice, but I also agree with you that that's definitely on the table, and you could explore that, even do it in a tasteful way, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like it missed an opportunity there to show the less beautiful parts of the Mortician's life.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe other types of Mortician's games could be made. Maybe that's a new genre. And I'll be making the Mortician Simulator 2020.
And I'm not going to be playing.
Where you you just accidentally stick your coworker with the formaldehyde syringe and stuff. You go to the funeral and you have to like balance the sandwiches on a tray, and you fall into the grieving lady and stuff, and it's gonna hilarious. Yeah, I shouldn't be making these games.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, okay. Any more comments, Vincent, on A Mortician's Tale?
I'm really glad we played it.
Yeah, me too. It was a cool thing to do. I wonder what we play next time. Maybe we'll revisit. This was part of the Black Lives Matter bundle. Right. Maybe we'll revisit some indie games out of there and then talk about them. Let's see. This was our little review of A Mortician's Tale. Really, just our conversation about it. Maybe you enjoyed it. If you did, like the video, you can leave comments if you have ideas about this game that you'd like to share. We'd be very interested.
Absolutely.
Subscribe to the channel if you like, and you can follow us on Twitter @makes_play. And yeah, see you next time.
See you.